Hi, I'm Dr. Divina Lopez, a board-certified pediatrician with over 10 years of experience in pediatrics, and you are listening to Dancing into Parenthood. Hello. Welcome back to Healing Conversations. This is episode number 3. This is like third location, so hopefully third time's a charm, because it looks like number 3 is the lucky number for this episode. So we have Mari Vega with me today, and I'm part of Healing Conversations. The reason why I decided to start this weekly video or chat conversation with everybody is because, going through this pandemic at this point in time, I feel like we've already accepted that this is going to be something for the long haul. And we're just kind of like in a funky period, but I wanted to bring people on who are really like thriving during this pandemic. And for me, Mari is one of those people, because right now she's a co-author of a book called Diamond Minds. She has the first chapter, there it goes. And, she talks about her healing journey with breastfeeding. And this is the perfect time to be talking about it because August is National Breastfeeding Month. And this week especially is the National Breastfeeding Week. Mm-hmm. Right. So it was just perfect timing. Actually she was supposed to be like the week later, and something happened with my guest for this week. So all of this was supposed to happen for a reason. And maybe this third time is happening for another reason. We don't know. Hey, Jen, how are you?
Hey.
So now we're doing it on Zoom because we had already attempted to do it on Instagram, first in our backyards, then inside the house, and we had some technical difficulties. So now we're at the third attempt at recording this, and we're on a Zoom. So whoever's on, if you want to participate, it would be great if we could be interactive. If you want to just chat, you can do that too. Nope. So welcome. I'm happy to have you, Mari. I definitely am a person who admires you, your strength as a woman, all of the things that you have accomplished. And I think she's just a phenomenal person. She has a lot of great energy. She's truly herself. She shows life the way it is as a family. There's no covering up. Like, she shows it all, and I really love that about her because, for me, I'm very much the opposite. Like, I'm always afraid, right? And I'm always like, oh, I have to look like a certain way, and I have to, do things a certain way. I have a lot of pressure. I put a lot of pressure on myself. And so, because we want everything to look a certain way all the time, a certain aesthetic, or we want to portray that we have this certain lifestyle, we don't really show who the real us, like who are we, what's really going on in our lives, because we say, oh, that looks too messy, I don't want to show that part of me, right? So I have to applaud you for that because you're out there, girl, and I love that about you. You show your kids in the morning, you show yourself in the bed, no makeup on. So
that was a process. That's a story.
It's tough. I'm like, wow, you're really just showing it all. And I think people really appreciate that about you because that's real life, right? Like, what are we always trying to hide when everybody goes through it? And it's like, that's what brings shame to certain parts of our lives because we want to cover it up and pretend like that doesn't happen in our lives. And right now during this pandemic, I think, a lot of adjustments have been made. People are trying to figure it out. Earlier when we were recording, you were talking about how people have either learned to pivot and like make things work out in their life, or you're still like trying to figure it out. And it feels really, she's very transparent. She's very relatable. I agree. We're in this like really funky place. Yeah, so many people can relate because that's what really happens, right? We're not like, there's no such thing as anything looking perfect. Like, absolutely not. That goes out the door. I think, a lot of times we're trying to keep up with everybody, thinking that their life is just so much better than ours and trying to impress or whatever. And that's just not real. So thank you so much, Mari, for coming on.
Interestingly enough,
third attempt.
Interestingly enough, I just turned on my IG live while we're talking, and it looks like it's working perfectly, and a bunch of people are joining, and I'm just saying hi there. So we'll just tag team it all.
Okay. So do you want me to do two cameras?
No. The Zoom is here, my phone is here, so we'll do an engaging conversation with everyone.
Okay.
So thank you to everyone who is making it work. We will meet you where you're at. Salud. We will meet you where you're at. Salud. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Divina. And I just don't even know where to start because it was not popular. Okay. The first time that I was like, wait a minute. This is not really what motherhood looks like. It's not these beautiful Instagram feeds like this. I'm not capable of these beautiful photos, and I'm not gonna kill myself to be this like Instagram mom. Mm-hmm. And I remember I used to tell my stepmom like, hey, I'm doing this project, and like I started it was called Under Construction Mari. It was like a new Instagram handle that I had made that I kept hidden, that is very private. To this day, it's very private, and it was only people I actually knew that I allowed to follow my journey. So what's really cool about that is that I literally have the documentation of how I started being raw and vulnerable as I was going through it, as I was practicing like the concept of being open and honest.
Yes.
About maybe the ugly parts of myself and like not so attractive things. And I remember telling my stepmom about the project, and I'm like, oh, I just see a future where like people, I'd rather like share, like we're all the same. In fact, I was crying Monday night. I'm such an empath that sometimes I feel like I'm crying for the whole world. Like I was like, my husband knew it was coming. He was like, come here, gave me one of those hugs. And I started crying because I was like, yo, the world, 80% of us are all sharing the same pain.
Oh, probably more than 80%.
Yeah, more. And we're not brave enough in our own reasons to, hi Woody, to be open and honest.
This is real motherhood.
Real motherhood. Join our conversation, Papi. Look, this is her son joining us for the conversation. So, I think that people are now catching on to this vibe of like behind the scenes, real life, authenticity, vulnerability. But I'm like, meanwhile, 4 years ago when I was thrown into motherhood, it was a rough patch. And I think a year into it, I realized something needed to change. And it was honestly, my body was actually full of the pain that I was holding, and it was manifesting itself, and all the stress and the toxicness of my environment literally was causing me so much debilitating pain that after a year of physical therapy, my physical therapist was like, have you ever thought of guarding your energy? Because like I got 2 rounds of cortisol shots in my neck, which was so scary. It wasn't like bad, but like a needle is like going into your vertebrae and you feel it. I'm like, at the time I was 29 and I'm like, why am I 29 feeling like I have the back of a 75-year-old? Like I'm too young to be feeling this pain, and nobody can tell me why I'm feeling this pain. So finally one day that PT tells me that, and I go, what? Guard my energy? He goes, yeah, look up Reiki, crystals, like just and I think you should go to more yoga. And I was like, okay. And he literally took me on a medical leave from work for 6 weeks. And I was on a very committed like yoga, massage, acupuncture, chiropractic care like therapy. And it was life-changing. And I actually went back to that toxic work environment, like with my diffuser and my essential oils. And I like put up a whiteboard and I put like the positive quote of the week. And I was like, nobody is messing with my energy. When I had to go back to that work environment, I was like, I will find my way to get out of this work environment. But you know, this is something that kicked in also that I had learned earlier in my career, which was life is only 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it.
Yeah.
And that's honestly what I've chosen to kind of, earlier I talked about resiliency, where resiliency is the ability to bounce back. And it's a muscle that I have had to exercise throughout my life. So when COVID hit, right, everyone's going through different waves of emotions, but eventually my resiliency kicked in and was like, okay, you need to survive this. Let's get you to a place where you're comfortable, where you're no longer having to survive and you can just thrive in this chapter of your life. And so I keep saying 2020 is canceled, but I'm like, why is there a rush to go back? Were you really living your best life? Were you really living the ultimate dream? And for some people that might be the case, but there's a Buddhist prayer that says, like, I pray for difficult times because through difficult times, that's can grow.
Everything. Yes, exactly. And I'm a true testament of that. But it's so funny. I didn't know about this whole like energy, your path, right? Because you know how, so lately I've been telling Mari, and she's been helping me out because she does HR. So I just recently quit one of my jobs.
It's out there. You told the public.
Yeah. So right, just now.
Party.
So I'm going to share this with you, Mari, because this is what happened to me. So I asked for her advice because she does HR. And I was like, Mari, I need your help because, I need to know what are my rights as an employee and blah, 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 and all that other stuff. But so what ended up happening was that I chose at this point in my life to make a completely different decision about how I practice medicine. And what I want to do is do a blend of what I traditionally do in medicine, which is what I've learned in medical school. But then I also want to incorporate this energy medicine that I've been learning about, because there are real energy fields in your body. They're the meridians that we hear about in acupuncture. And so I want to kind of blend like Eastern and Western medicine. And I'm trying to still figure out like, how can I do this? Because this is something that I've been thinking about for a really long time. And I don't have it figured out, but I know I will figure it out. It's something that I think that people are looking for. I want to teach people how to teach their children how to do it, because ultimately, and I truly believe this as a physician, like we are healers of ourselves. Just the way Mari healed herself with her terrible back pain, and people like carry so much stress in their body that's how their body reacts. Like you get these muscles. But I've had this terrible pain in this left arm this entire time that we've been home. And I'm not a person who's sick. I'm not a person who ever feels pain, really. I'm pretty like healthy and I am getting older, but I haven't had pains or stuff like that. So I know it's stress related, and so I'm working on it. And some days I'm pain free, and then other days I feel a little more. I don't know. But I've been learning about this energy medicine, and it's amazing how, yes, a person can just heal themselves. You don't necessarily have to go to the doctor. And I don't like when people are on a million different medications. Like my goal is always like, let's try to reduce. What can we take out of this equation? Because sometimes what ends up happening is that your body chemistry changes so much to actually like allow this medicine to come in. And it's not doing you any good. And I don't treat adults. I treat kids. But I do think that we can teach kids how to use energy medicine themselves so that they can help themselves through anxiety. There's a lot of things that kids also start to manifest at a very young age. Maybe it's because some experience that they have, maybe it's stuff that comes from their family. There's all sorts of things. But I think that, I'm still trying to figure out how to really bring this out to everybody. But it's something that I feel so dedicated to at this point. And like I said, it will eventually happen where I can bring it out to everyone in my own way. I think, for me right now, I'm just trying to also figure out legally, what can I do? Is it a liability? Because I am a physician, so I have to worry about that sort of thing. But, that's something that is coming down the road. So, I would say, like, send me your blessings and everything, because that's something that I really want to do for people. At one point, I was even thinking, do I get out of medicine altogether because I don't like what's going on? This whole like funkiness with the virus, it's not just a virus, right? And I keep saying this, like, it's not just about a virus that's happening right now. There's something else going on. There's a whole shift going on in this world. Some people say it's the whole fifth dimension. I feel it. We all feel it in some way. Some people cannot express what's going on. But there's definitely something going on. And me personally, looking at how can I help other people, first I was like, let me try doing this where we can actually talk and interact and get together and try to heal each other, because through stories, you heal each other. Mm-hmm. Like you hearing Mari's story right now, you're like, oh my God, I've been going through that myself. Like, maybe I need to look into other ways to help myself. Because there's so many other things. Like, a doctor's visit is not usually the end all of anything. I think, the way we're trained in medicine, it's unfortunate that we don't really take the whole body into account, or they don't teach really this whole energy part of it. Like, I would love for that to become a thing in medical school, because I think that's so important. And, we'll see what actually comes out. I really hope that this is something that more doctors will look into also, more healers, nurses. There's so many people who we know it in the medical field. Like, there's something more. I'm not a big pharma person. I don't like that that's a whole business and they make a lot of money. There's some other way to practice, which I think is probably a whole lot better.
Well, I have some thoughts. One, yes, we need you changing the game. I want to just highlight Jennifer's comment, because she's an educator, she's a teacher, and she sees how anxiety is impacting a lot of kids. Speaking of anxiety, right? Anxiety is going to keep rising. Why? Because we are living in different times, and our bodies were not created at times to deal with the certain things we're experiencing. I was talking to a mother, and she was saying, like, she's coming back to work. And actually multiple mothers are coming to me at work, and, they're stressed. They're back to work. This, that, third. Right. Yeah. And their brains aren't on. Why aren't your brains on? Quick scientific fact that I'm sure Dr. Lopez will validate is our brains are literally like focused on baby, because our human body is aware that we have an offspring that needs us for survival. Right. So that's called physiological. That's called a physiological response, right? Yeah. And when we are put away from our baby and in a situation that is not related to baby, your body and your brain are like, no. Take care of the baby. It's physiologically, scientifically happening. Yeah. Right. Mom brain is a real thing. Google it. The whole point here is to say, we're living in a world that is not, in America, giving mothers the support they need. Secondly, everything you just said about medicine needing to be holistic and needing to come together, voy a ti 100%. I was actually just on a call last night. I know you're aware of Enlightenhood, but if you aren't aware of Enlightenhood, contact me, because I'm an Enlightenhood mentor. I can give you a free 2-week subscription. And they have an entire amazing program where it's kind of like a community of like-minded, spiritual, awoken mothers. And the tagline is really like coming out of the spiritual closet in many senses of that word, whether it's conscious parenting, whether it's tools for healing and health and other alternative medicine. There's just so much. And so I am an Enlightenhood mentor. I'll be announcing and sharing more of that soon. But interestingly enough, when you were talking about like your arm hurting, right? When this book came out, can I just say, I never in my life thought people would read my book and hit me up and say, like, you brought me to tears. I've been dealing with this depression episode. I've been dealing with this anxiety. I've been a million things. People have come out of the woodworks. And there's a whole section where I basically tell people, like, you're supposed to have a positive relationship with stress. Like, stress is supposed to motivate you and give your body the energy to go do the thing that you need to be stressed about, right? But it's leaking out in different ways because we're not even using stress the way we're supposed to be, and we're in not healthy relationships with stress. And in the book, I say, let's identify if you have a pattern of physical symptoms that are potentially caused by stress, because people don't know that stress is manifesting itself in your body. That's why when you look at certain people, look at my shoulders, guys. Look at my shoulders. I should look back and find some pictures. I used to live like this.
Yes, like, when you're all tense,
my
your shoulders
stress level,
your ears. Yes.
I'm on a million, right? Yeah. And I didn't know that. Also, a lot of people experience low energy, headaches, digestive issues. I can't stress that enough.
Because the brain and the stomach are connected. There's the same sort of cells in both places. So you know how when you're anxious and you're thinking all these thoughts, your stomach starts, you're like, oh my God, I have to go to the bathroom. I have diarrhea. I'm going to throw up. I'm going to do. It's the reaction that your body has to stress. And let me just say one other thing that you're bringing up, this stress, how, stress is, having a stress reaction for a short period of time helps to get you motivated to do the things you need to do. But the thing is that we're in a constant stress. And what ends up happening is that your hormones, your cortisol hormone especially, is always high. And then what ends up happening from that is all the other reactions that you're having in your body. The weight gain happens, the low energy happens, the foggy thinking happens. It's all connected to each other. So that's the other thing. We're having this very imbalance of our hormones, which is making us feel a certain way. And you feel really crappy and you feel very depressed. And the anxiety just continues and you can't get anything done. What ends up happening actually is the opposite. You feel very unmotivated and stagnant. And then you're very dissatisfied with your life because you're like, wait a minute. Why can't I get anything done? Why am I not being productive? Why is my life so sucky? Like, how can I make it better? But you're in this like phase where you can't get out of it. And then what ends up happening, you go to the doctor and they tell you you're depressed and they give you an antidepressant. And then they tell you, you know what? Now maybe your sugar is getting high because this cortisol is high all the time. So maybe now you're pre-diabetic. Maybe now we have to give you metformin. And so there's all these prescriptions and you start taking a load of medications. And maybe you start feeling better for like a few weeks and then you feel real shitty afterwards. It's like, oh my God, I can't get out of this.
Because you're treating the symptoms. You're not treating why something is happening.
What's really going on.
So when you keep treating the symptoms, you're going to keep experiencing it. For example, listen, therapy. Okay, let's talk about therapy. Mm-hmm. Therapy is a big piece of healing for a lot of people. I went to a talk therapy counselor when I finally ended up finding someone that fit for me. And I saw her for 4 years of my life. Wow. And up until that point, I had tried many times, especially because I was so fortunate to go to a college that offered it for free. So I kept trying to go to different people, but I also probably wasn't using the right terminology about what I was going through. Mm-hmm. And so later on in my life, whatever, I had this really big fight with a family member. I broke down in tears. It must have been like a fountain of things. And that's the person word vomited all over. And so I worked with her to fix some of my issues. So then I was like, hey, I'm kind of happy. I kind of think I don't need to see you anymore. Like we went from like weeklies to bi-weeklies to monthlies. And I felt really good that I knew how to take the tools and treat the symptoms, and the symptoms were better. And therefore I got to some of the core items and worked through them. So one thing, too many people are going to doctors or physical therapy, chiropractic care, whatever it is. Some of the things are maintenance, but be careful, because if it's not maintenance and if you're not walking away with knowing how you're treating the core issue, are you creating a crutch for yourself? Because some people go to talk therapy forever, and I don't feel like I see some progress. I'm kind of like,
yeah,
what's going on here? And I feel like that's a relationship you have to constantly be pivoting on, because now I'm at a point in my life where I have totally different things I want to work through, for my expansion to continue to occur. And I'm actually shopping for a new therapist, not from a place of like detrimental
I'm broken,
self-help.
so how do I grow?
Right.
Yeah.
But self-help and healing doesn't have to be a negative connotation, just like stress is supposed to be positive, but a lot of us are experiencing it in negative amounts. So I just want to like pivot all this thinking.
Well, you know, that's the other thing, right? Like we often, this is my son, what's going on?
Real mom moment here.
Okay,
Real
okay.
mom, real life.
Okay, let me finish this first. Okay, later. So what I wanted to say was, a lot of times we are victims of something, right? We hold ourselves, like we talk like we are being victimized, and we have to stop that. Like, you know, this pandemic is keeping us all down because it's a virus going on and blah, blah, blah. Like, stop being a victim and take accountability for yourself. So, you know, like sometimes people are, oh, I'm a victim of, like, I go to therapy so much and nothing's really coming out and I don't know. Stop. Hold yourself accountable for what goes on in your life. Hold yourself accountable for your own healing, because only you can do it. Nobody else is going to do it. You cannot come to Dr. Lopez and say, I'm going to cure you of everything. That's not my job, actually. You know, like my job is, I try to empower everybody who comes to see me, because I think that as part of my practice of medicine, what makes me happy is if I can make a parent feel empowered about what's going on with their child. I don't want them to feel like I'm the person who's in control. I'm not in control of what goes on in your child's health. You know, yes, you can come to me. I'm going to give you good advice. I'm dedicated to that, because I feel like that's not the way every doctor thinks, right? Some doctors think the very opposite. Like, yeah, I am the person in control. You're going to come to me and I'm going to do whatever. But I don't think that's a good way to practice medicine. I think that you should always try to teach people that you are in control of your own health, right? If you want to feel good, do things like Mari said, you know, if whatever it is that you like. If you like to connect to nature, I love to be out in nature. That sweet air, the views, the animals, all of that makes me feel better. You know, the water, I have to listen to it. I have to be in touch with nature constantly. Because when I'm away from a long time, I could tell. If I don't meditate every day, I don't feel like myself. If I don't journal every day, I don't feel like myself, because I didn't give the time to my own health, right? It's not just about eating healthy and about getting enough water. There's so much more to it. Like, you have to connect to yourself as a spiritual being, because yes, you have a body while you're here, but if you don't like heal that spirit and you keep ignoring that, you're not going to get where you want to be optimally. Like, you want to function as a human being here on earth, you have to function and bring both together, your body and your spirit. How do you like balance the two? Because once your spirit feels good, your body will function in a whole nother way, which is also like something that I've been thinking about, because as I'm getting older, I'm wondering, how do I keep my body young? And, you know, like, I love having good energy, because for me, like, people never think I'm the age that I am. They always think I'm much younger, because I have good energy, because I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Let's go out. Let's do whatever. And I think that's what keeps you young. You could be 70 and have that sort of energy, and no one's ever going to believe that you're 70. It's just, you know, you have to know how to take care of both. If you know how to take care of your spirit, your body will definitely follow along. But you have to pay attention to that part. You know, like, people want to ignore that piece exists.
Oh my gosh, I ignored it for so long. First of all, you got like a few yeses, yes, when you were just speaking. So I just wanted you to know.
Good.
for so long, I used to try to journal because all the books said journal, 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 journal. And I literally vividly recall writing like a heart and then being like, because my mind and my heart and my gut weren't in alignment. Like my mind wanted this, which was working from my ego. Like I wanted to wear certain clothing and certain brands, and I wanted money and all these things. And then my heart was like, I care for these kinds of people. So why do I have these kinds of other friendships that aren't this kind of friendship? I was all over the place. And then like with my gut, I was literally ignoring my gut feelings about like bad romantic relationship decisions knowingly, not going up in the heat with my eyes closed. I was like, I know this person is bad for me, but I'm going to keep exploring this until I feel I'm done and ready with this. Yeah. And that kind of behavior, it happened for years. For years, I was doing that in this pattern, like where I was literally awake to the damage I was doing to myself. But what happens is the same thing. I was so cognizant about working out, eating good, but I was never taking care of my mind, taking care of my heart, releasing my frustrations, releasing my sadness in positive ways, right? I would go drink, I would go party so I could forget what I was going through. I wasn't dealing with the things, you know? So when you said that, it really mattered to me because I think a lot of times if we listen to the little voice in our head, it's actually trying to come out. Mine was trying to come out for years, trying to whisper to you like the answers. And so one of the things I say a lot to people is like, be your own guru. I think we're too into finding external answers to our problems. With medicine. Yeah. I'm sure everyone goes to you. They're like, what's wrong with my kid? Tell me what's wrong with my kid. Because you're going to know what's wrong. And then you might not even have an answer. So then I'm going to go find an answer because I know there's supposed to be an answer of what's wrong. Instead of like asking yourself what's wrong with your kid. Asking yourself, seeing what feels right. And I'm just curious if you have found that where it's like you've almost like, are people looking at you like you need to have an answer as a doctor?
There are people like that. I mean, and again, I think sometimes it's just to have someone to blame if something doesn't go right because people don't want to take the responsibility for themselves. And, you know, just like you said, like you're the one with all the answers. Okay, here, you can do as many pictures as you like. He wants to take pictures. He's a photographer. So, you know, part of that looking for the answer outside, you're giving your power away. You have to believe that you are a powerful being, right? You have answers. They're inside of you. You have to, yes, it's not easy to get those answers, right? Because it's like, wow, it took me, oh my God, years before I could really sit down and meditate, even for like 3 minutes. It took me years. The first time my friend was like, Divina, let's do this 21-day meditation challenge. I was like, I don't know about that. That's not me. You know, I was always a person that was rushing to the next thing to, you know, to keep up with school, to keep up with my profession, to keep up with the Joneses, to keep up with everything, that I wasn't the person who tuned in to myself. So I know because I lived that life, right? Of looking for the answers everywhere else and giving my power away to everyone. And what ended up happening is that like it took me so many years of actually trying to get back into that because it felt good and awkward. Like there was something that felt really satisfying about it, and there was something that felt like, oh, what am I doing? And I couldn't believe that I was becoming this like hippie-ish kind of person. Like, what is that? Because I never accepted that as a lifestyle that I thought was something I wanted to live. You know, same thing. I wanted to have the big house, the Mercedes Benz, you know, the amazing wardrobe. And I still do. Like, I love to have nice things. Don't get me wrong, people. It's not that I'm like, you know, I still believe that money is important. We still have to have some sort of lifestyle, a standard that we feel is good for us, right? I no longer feel like I need to keep up with anybody though. That's the difference. The difference is that I'm very satisfied now with my life.
I was very unsatisfied before because I never felt like I could get to whichever goal of, you know, whatever I saw on social media or my friends or whatever. And so I always felt like something was missing. Something was missing. But I, you know, for me, it was always something material before. And now I know that, my God, nothing is actually missing from my life. I have too much. And when you understand that part, that you really have everything you actually need, anything else that comes in is just like a plus, right?
Yes.
I now feel whole. I don't judge myself because I have cellulite on my thighs. I don't feel that way anymore. I used to hate my body. Oh my God, because I wanted it to be so slim, because I wanted to have this perfect looking everything, you know. And I don't feel that way anymore. I'm so happy actually with my life now, because now I look at everything and I'm like, wow, it's amazing that I have created this life that I never thought I was gonna love. I never thought I was gonna love my life, because I always felt like I was never gonna get to whatever I wanted. And now when I look around, I say, oh my God, I can't believe how much I love my life. I can't believe how fortunate I am that I have my son, that I have the air to breathe, you know, the birds in the morning. I love all those things now, and I never used to notice those things before. And I do think that it took my son to come into my life for me to even realize that stuff, because he's a very slow-paced person. And, you know, I always be like, Papi, let's go. We have to go wherever. And he's like, Mommy, but let's look at this, or let's do that. Beautiful, Papi. And because of that, because I had to slow down because of him, that's when I started noticing the trees, the rustling leaves, you know, all those little things that I'm like, man, I missed out on all of this for so long, because I was always too focused on stuff that wasn't present in my life. Yeah. But, you know, slowly but surely, you know, starting with a minute of meditation, 2 minutes of meditation, as I started looking into myself, that's when I started to feel the power that I actually had. And from there, then I could incorporate certain things. And from there, I could hear the flow and the path that I should be taking. And I don't have answers. I don't. Like, just like I told you right now, like, goodness, how do I blend these two things? You know, I keep trying to find the answer. I keep, you know, I reach out to attorneys. I'm like, how do I do this? How do I do this? I already found the course that I know that I want to take. But then it's like, okay, I've taken so many courses because I keep trying to figure out like what to do. But I'm like, no more courses. Like, Jack, you need to like figure out, sit down and figure this thing out so you can actually do it, so you can bring it to people. Because I truly love what I do. I love being a physician. What I don't love is the insurance companies that make you rush. What I don't love is that knock on the door from the medical assistant telling me, hello, you know, you went over your time with the patient. I can't stand that part. And for me, that's just not the way I will ever practice medicine. I refuse, you know?
That's the thing, is I have the same exact meditation story, the same exact journey. I started.
We have a lot of the similar stories.
On the app Headspace, and I started with their little animation that are 1, 2, 3 minutes long. And I started that way. And, I just want to take a moment to say, I keep getting a lot of, Mari, you look so good. Mari this, Mari that.
You have
First of all, my weight has not changed this entire time. All right. I'm literally glowing because I'm working on my inner self, and the ugly is getting worked through and being dismissed. And I went to the beach for the first time, like, I don't know, a month and a half ago. And I was in a bathing suit, postpartum with my second child, right? And 15 pounds more than I ever was from like where I ended up after the first child. And I was not thinking about my weight. For all the women that are tuned in right now, the fact that I was in a bathing suit, not thinking about my weight, I was enjoying myself. I was enjoying the sounds of the waves. I was enjoying the sand. I was enjoying the sun on my body. I was enjoying watching my daughter play in the sand. I wasn't focused on expending so much energy thinking about my body in this bathing suit. Because when you love yourself from inside, it comes out. So
it shines.
Is still here. Okay. It hasn't gone away. I just have a different relationship with my body, and it shows. It shows.
You have to really appreciate what your body has done for you in order to like start loving it. You know, like for me, I always have these huge thighs and these big arms, and I'm like, goodness gracious. But I'm like, oh my God, my arms that carried my baby the whole time. My arms that carried my baby. He's 7.5, and I still carry. You know, like my thighs that I love dancing, and I'm like, my goodness, my legs have always been dancing legs. You know, this is just, you have to start focusing on all those beautiful things that your body has done for you, and like give it love. Give it love. Love yourself, because yes, we have mom bodies, and so what? We've carried kids. Like that's normal,
but
right?
Also, carrying kids is what made me be like, I'm the bomb. Okay, so let's talk about breastfeeding real quick.
My body has done all of this.
Breastfeeding is really hard, but what I think people don't recognize is the gratification factor. Like, yes, it is hard, but first of all, let's pause for a second. This baby yesterday didn't have to think about breathing, having a certain temperature for their own body, like eating, swallowing. This baby is like, what is happening? Do you go to a new job and you know what you're doing in 3 days? In 3 days, you know what you're doing. You're killing it at work. You know everything. Guys, have some
learning curve.
patience. It's a learning curve. So what bothers me is that we're not supporting women to get through that learning curve, to get to the point where them and baby know what the hell they're doing, so they can get to a point of gratification. And then you're like, whoa, I created a human, I birthed a human came out of my body and I survived it. And now I'm sustaining this baby's life outside of my body with breast milk. Nothing can take away the gratification of what your body is capable of doing more than breast milk. I mean, that's why I just want to give moms that extra love, like that extra boost, and the hormones help. The longer you breastfeed, the more hormones that you have that go towards helping your body feel good about what you're doing and love your baby, and helps with postpartum. It's all science. It's backed by science too. But that's my whole thing with Breast is Gold, is that it's not about formula or breastfeeding. It's about motherhood is already hard enough. So why add the additional guilt and trauma with the whole fed is best, breast is best? Why not just be like, yo, it's the bomb, it's golden, it's like the best, like let's go for it. And when real measurable situations occur, like mental health, like baby having difficulty, like baby not gaining weight, yes, take precautions. However, it is an undeniable fact that like these things are meant to help you, not to hurt you. And I think we're getting real lost in society and in marketing campaigns. And you know, people don't look stuff up nowadays, right? We're real quick to like things and spread false information and not really look back at everything and know the facts. So, you know, I think we just all have a grander appreciation. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes motherhood by trial and fire and error.
And then when you start figuring things out, things change. So like, actually, you know, now that you're saying the whole thing about the breastfeeding, on the blog that I write for New York City Tastemakers, this week I wrote about my breastfeeding experience, which I said you have to be gentle with yourself because it's a learning curve. Like there's no way, I don't care how many breastfeeding courses you did before the baby comes, your baby and you are both learning when the baby finally arrives. So, you know, the baby is very fussy and they're hungry sometimes and they're just like all over the place and you can't coordinate with them and you can't give up. You just have to be like, let me keep trying. You know, like that little engine that could just keep going. And, you know, I always say, I don't put any pressure on any moms. You do what you think you can do. Okay. If you can do breastfeeding exclusively, great. I loved it. You know, the first few days were really tough, but I dedicated myself to it because that was important to me. You know, if you feel it's too much pressure and it's getting you down, then do a little bit of formula, a little bit of breast until you really got it going, and then you could go, you know. don't have that guilt. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I think that kind of also like messed me up in my head because I put weight. Again, like I told you, I put a lot of pressure on myself all the time to achieve certain things. And so I don't recommend anyone should do that to themselves. I don't know why I do that to myself.
It's terrible. We all do it. The first time mom, like,
oh my God,
pressure,
horrible.
insane. It's horrific.
Yeah. And it's like, you wouldn't even treat like a stranger like that. Why do you do that to yourself? The way we speak to ourselves, the way we're so disappointed in ourselves, it's like, stop, stop it.
Speaking of that, I bring that up in the book. I talk about how I have a little pet peeve with, and I might get some haters on this, I don't know, but I have a little pet peeve with the golden rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Because we don't treat ourselves the way we want to be treated. So first, treat yourself the way you want to be treated. And then also that creates an expectation, because if you treat yourself the way you want to be treated, you come from a place of kindness and manners. And for example, with the whole Black Lives Matter, right? Everybody is like, I read this post yesterday. It was like a woman saying like, how can I love people of all races. Like, I know there's a problem with how we're treating Black people. I love Black people. Well, how can I make them feel that I'm not one of these racist white people when I'm out in the street? And I had just like sat down and I don't usually get into these conversations with people or anything like on the internet. Like, I'm not an internet troll, but because this is like a very popular page. So she has like she already had like 300 comments, but I'm like, let me add my 2 cents here, because why are we actually thinking about how do I go tell you that I'm here for you? How do we do that? As being a good-hearted, wholesome part of your community. Just like you would open the door for someone, you would say good morning, you would say have a good day, whatever you would say, treat everybody the same. It's not that you have to go out of your way to treat Black people kinder so that they know you aren't. That's not part of being anti-racist. It's that you're mixing the message.
That's the guilt. That's the guilt.
And so I just brought that up because she was a breastfeeding mother page. So, but I said, if you just go about it, just treating everyone with dignity, love, and respect,
everybody.
Right. What you could focus on, which is what I'm focusing on with the Breast is Gold campaign, what you could focus on is expanding the horizon of those that are not on the same page with you. So how about you help us educate privileged, representing white race people? That includes ourselves as Latinos, because we are not a race, we are an ethnicity. So, when we start to see ourselves able to educate those that are still on their learning curve to expand their horizons, that's where you could put your effort. That's where it needs, because that Black person in the supermarket doesn't give a shit about you and what you want to go out of your way to tell them. You're operating from a place of guilt. And so when you're a mom and your partner or your sister, mother, whoever is helping you, your friend, they come in there and they're like, from a place of guilt, being from a place of wanting to help, offering the formula and offering like just give up, and their form of help is stop breastfeeding. Like, look at you're suffering, like don't do that, it doesn't matter. And then the guilt inside of you grows because you're not making a decision that you necessarily thought through and wanted to make. You're now being pressured to stop pursuing your goal in favor of doing what is easier, quote unquote, by the people around you. So my message is like, hey, supportive, quote unquote, people, start supporting that mom like you support people who run marathons, like you support people who have extreme determination after a tragedy happens and they lose a limb and they go run a marathon with like, a false leg, and you're like, oh my God. Treat moms the same way. Educate people about the amount of hours. Breastfeeding exclusively for a whole year is more full-time hours than working a 40-hour
real job. Yeah.
Real job. So be like, that takes patience. That takes time. That's what I want, is like the people who are supposed to be supporting, for them to carry the message along, for them to move that message forward, instead of being like, I'm going to be here for that mom and say I support her by telling her her goals aren't worth pursuing. That's the same thing with the Black Lives Matter. Like
that's just like a whole like unconditional love sort of thing though. And a lot of people don't even understand what unconditional love is. Like, I got your back no matter what, right? No matter how ugly this is, no matter how stupid this may seem or whatever, I got your back. Like, that's the kind of love we have for our kids, right? They could do the craziest tantrums. You see them coming in and out of this thing, no matter what. And I tell them all the time, I don't care what sort of crazy thing you thought you just did, you better tell me what it is, because I'm the person that has your back no matter what happens, right? And so it's that sort of support that you really need to have with anybody going through something, right? If you really, this little kid loves the camera more than I do. So it's that sort of thing. Like, if you really want to support a mother, you have to kind of be there through thick and thin and not give up so easily yourself. Because what you're doing is saying, like, I'm going to take the easy way out. So I'm going to give you the ticket to, it's okay to be easy about all of this because I kind of want to go back home. You know, like, it's not okay to do that. Motherhood is really difficult. It's really messy. There's so many parts of it that you're like, what? Puppy, please. That you're like, what is going on, and how the hell do I get out of this, right? Like, when does stuff get better? It does get better. It takes time. It takes a lot of courage to be a mom. It takes so much love for yourself and for your kids. I mean, I never in my life even thought that I wanted to become a mom. Like, that was something that I knew was going to be so hard that I was like, oh my God, I don't even think I'm meant for that. And when I became a mother, it just poured out of me. Like, I didn't even know that I was going to be so in love with this part of I never in my life thought that. Never. I always wanted to be a professional. I always wanted to be, you know, this, whatever I thought a professional working woman was. Like, that for me was what I wanted. Nothing that was going to take me away from that. And oh my God, it was through all the messiness of motherhood that I became a person that I'm like, wow, I love who I became because of that. And that's what opened up so many doors. So, okay, you know, Divina, look at yourself. What are you doing? How are you loving other people? Even, you know, I was very, very selfish prior to my son coming into my life. Super selfish. If it didn't, like, do something better for me, I didn't want any part of it. Including in my relationships, you know, like, very, very selfish. And now I'm the complete opposite. And I really, really love the person that I became because of that. Like, who knew that I wanted all of that? I had no idea. But the way motherhood changes you is usually for, like, the best, right? Like, you become an amazing human being from motherhood. You know, and I hope that dads even take part of this, because you can, through fatherhood, also evolve into a certain human being that you won't believe who you are, you know, because we evolve into that. It takes all of that. It took all of that for me to understand my mother. You know, I have so many wounds with my mother. It took motherhood for me to understand and have a much better relationship with my mother. And just to understand women in general, you know, like, I was very competitive all my life. And so, you know, now that goes out the door. Like, I could care less. I you know, I really feel like whatever has changed in me and what comes out is really for the best for everyone, for what I could give as a physician, for what I could give as a mother, for what I could give as a friend, as a sister, as a everything. And I think that's how we have to look at motherhood. Like, you know, don't think that anything is easy about it, because it's not. And if you really want to be supportive of a mom, don't take the easy way out yourself. Like, be the tried and true friend. Like, be there through thick and thin. You know, as a dad, be there through thick and thin also, because it's hard. It's really hard. It's hard for all of us.
Yeah. Well, I think just to bring us to a conclusion, because we're also going to be coming up on the hour. So I know that Rachel, I'll send you her account. She's a wonderful pediatrician. So thank you for sharing that in the chat. What you were getting at too is for those that, you know, are in a position right now where you're listening to us and you're kind of like, okay, I want to get there. Like, how do you guys do it? It feels like it's so far. What can I do? I just want to remind you guys, like, when people are like, how do you do it all? Like, you have a job, you're home with kids, it's pandemic. I'm not juggling 80,000 things at the same time.
Yeah.
What you're seeing is the products of consistency, of showing up at whatever pace I feel like showing up that day. Like last week, I decided to take a spiritual maintenance week. I was just not going to work on my business stuff. Mind you, it was like the launch of breastfeeding month. Okay. It was the launch of breastfeeding month and the launch of World Breastfeeding Week. And I'm like, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. It took me like 7 days to finally be like, all right, I'm feeling it. Cause I would have set that up in advance, but I didn't. I just was like, when I feel it. But what you're seeing is that the pace doesn't always have to be a sprint. Right. And so again, that marathon example, it's just like, you don't run a marathon matándote, killing yourself the whole way. You are going to take it pace by pace, step by step, and certain challenges are certain parts of that road are going to be challenging, and you're going to prepare yourself for that. But, you know, whether you're in the position of supporting mothers, whether you're in the position of preparing for motherhood, whether you're in the position of in the middle of motherhood by fire and you are burning up. Yeah. What we hope you take from this healing conversation is it is a long road and you are in one chunk of it. So also, if you're a breastfeeding mother, what you're experiencing today is going to be different a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now. As your baby grows, your situation changes. Everyone gives up too because they think like that first week, second week, third week is horrendous. That's not the same experience I'm having now, 15 months in. It's a completely different experience.
It's so easy.
Yeah. So, you know, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. And I don't know if you have any last words, but I think I just wanted to bring all of this to make it feel like people know the next step. Because sometimes I think I heard these messages for a long time in my life, but I was like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm never going to meditate. I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do that. And I just want people to know that it is actionable. It's one foot in front of the other. And because I keep putting one foot in front of the other, I have a trail to look back at. But if I don't take those steps, or worse, I take steps backwards, there is nothing to reflect on. You're still in the same place, right?
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. Like, you know, everything in life brings you somewhere, right? So when you're in that really sticky situation that you don't really love too much, try to find out what is it that you're learning from that stage, right? Because kids grow really quickly anyway, so they grow into a new stage really, really fast. And then, you know, you're going to learn the next stage that's coming up. And every kid is different. You know, some kids are really easy and some kids are a little more difficult. And, you know, so you have to know your child and you have to know yourself, and you have to be very forgiving of yourself because you're not going to have it figured out. I'm a pediatrician. I don't know everything that's going on with my kid. You know, like people tell me all the time, like, oh, you're lucky. And I'm like, no, that doesn't change anything. Like, you know, motherhood and going to medical school did not prepare me to have a child. You know, it actually.
You heard it here, people. You heard it here.
Yeah, it puts too many things in your head, and then you're like, oh my God, is it this? Is it that? And you know. So be very forgiving of yourself as a mom. We're so forgiving with other people, not with ourselves. Let things go, and I mean, let it go. Not that you're always thinking and thinking and thinking. You just have to be like, you know what? You know, it's over. Yeah, and I'm okay, and I made a mistake. And you can even go to your child and be like, you know what, I messed up. That wasn't so great what I did. I do it all the time with my son. And, you know, and you learn. It's learning for both. And you're actually teaching your child a lot when you do that, right? Because you're also teaching them how to be a better human being. So, you know, don't be afraid to do those things. So, you know, say when you messed up and ask, like, how can we do things better next time? That's also okay. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I love treating my child like an adult. I think, you know, I think he's gotten a lot out of that. They're gonna be kids, but teach them the right way to do things. You're the one who knows, right? Because you've already gone through those things. So be forgiving with yourself. Your child will be forgiving with you too. They love you no matter what you do. They always think you're amazing no matter what you do. So don't think you need to have it all figured out, because nobody does.
Nobody does. And if you think they do, you don't know what happens
You're
behind
wrong.
closed doors. Da, da, da. So thank you for having me on your Healing Conversations platform. For those tuning in, it's usually on her IG Live. She is at Dr. Divina Lopez. And she is usually doing these on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We had a lot of inconveniences today, but we made it through.
We made it through. The third time was the charm. So
for those that tuned in for some of the things I have going on, my Breast is Gold campaign and t-shirt is popping. So let me know. You can order me. You can DM me for pre-orders. My IG link also has the link to my book. It's on Amazon for $9.99. It's also on Kindle for $2.99
download.
So thank you for coming and supporting, and all of this.
Thank you, Mari.
And will be shared. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. She really took over because I had to drive back. Thank you so much for doing this with me and hanging in there no matter what. That's you. You see, that's why I love you, because you figure it out. You always do.
We figure it out. We're the part of the Mama Tribe. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.
All right. Have a good night.
To listen to more podcasts, please visit us at drdivinalopez.com and follow us on Instagram at Dr. Divina Lopez. Thank you for listening. Please keep in mind that all advice given in this podcast is general information. To understand your specific situation, you must consult with your pediatrician.